Welcome back to The Rhythm. Hopefully you guys took a little break, but you still spent some time with Jesus. And now that we're back, we're going to be getting into the new series that we're going to be talking about for the next, how many weeks? 5, 6 weeks?
I think it's 5 weeks.
Yeah.
It's leading us up to Easter. We should probably know this as the guys preaching.
Yeah, when is it? Not just kidding. But we're going to be talking about some key passages in Mark that are, leading us up to Easter. So Pastor Kyle, you want to give us a little heads up what's coming?
Yeah, so we're... Sorry about that. We're heading into this series called The Beautiful Upset. And what I like about this series is it's essentially 4 or 5 weeks leading us to Easter weekend. And we're going to be focusing on different things that Jesus said that they caused a great upset in the culture because they caused a great upset to people's understanding of things. Mm-hmm. And these are actually some of the very things that caused people to crucify him. So it's kind of a double play where it was a great upset to the culture in a great, powerful way, but then it was a great upset to his life where these are the things that actually cost it and resulted in him being killed, was some of the statements we're going to study in the scriptures. And just the way he moved was just so different. Some have called it like the upside down kingdom. And so we're going to be grappling with that, wrestling with that. And this week, I'll be kicking us off with Mark chapter 8, and we'll be looking at the story where Jesus goes up to his disciple and he's like, "Who is I? Who am I? Tell me who I am." So I'm excited. I think that it's going to be cool to see some of these stories. One of them is like how Jesus rode in on the donkey and looking at how that was another great upset. If he was a king, would he have ridden in that way?
Yeah.
That challenged the understanding of some of the followers of him. Yeah. What kind of king was he? So I'm excited to jump into it, man.
Yeah. I think this series is going to take a lot of openness, not only from those who are preaching, but also those who are listening, because who did Jesus upset? He upset the religious, and he was championed by the unreligious.
Yeah.
And I think what I see within myself and within a lot of other people these days is a form of what the disciples and what the people of Jesus' time tried to do. They would say, "Jesus, you're on top, take over cultural and political powers." And he kept on saying, "That's not why I'm here." And I see kind of that happening in our culture where people are championing Jesus as the political leader, as the political motive, when Jesus was always like, "Hey, I know you're going to try to kill me, but that's not why I'm here."
Yeah, I'm going to give away some of the sermon on Saturday, but
we'll just bleep this out.
Yeah, we'll just. But you look at Mark 8, right? And Jesus asks his disciples some questions, and then he asks them a very pointed question, which is more like, "Who am I to you?" And it's interesting the way that Peter answers.
Young Pete.
And he's always the disciple I kind of align with. He's scrappy. He made mistakes. He wasn't always he didn't come dressed in a polyester suit. Clearly, he kept a knife on him.
Yeah.
But we have to ask why. Why did he keep that knife on him? And I think it was because he had
gut fish.
But also I think he literally chopped off a dude's ear that was coming for Jesus. That was a Roman. And so there's a clear understanding with Peter. There's a history and a backstory, I think, of him kind of having, I don't want to go as far as to say a prejudice. I mean, maybe he probably did, but a genuine hate and distrust. And I need to find a leader that's going to help us overthrow these people who are occupying our land and messing with us. And so he came to Jesus. Jesus asked the question, "Who am I?" And he says, "Well, you're the Messiah." And well, what do you think that meant when he said he's the Messiah? Why do you think he responded that way? I'm going to share on Saturday, but...
Yeah. Back then, it's interesting to think of what they thought the Messiah was, because we read the Messiah with the understanding of who Christ is.
Yeah.
And first off, I just want to point out real quick, we're looking at Mark 8:27 all the way to the end, to 38. That's what we're going to be looking at, and that's what even Pastor Kyle is going to be preaching about. And back then, right, we even think of Jesus as the suffering servant and the one who, will die and raise again and live. And yet that would have been completely foreign to them. They believed that the Messiah was coming to restore Israel to its power, to its rightful place, and become a world-dominating power. And so then when Jesus asks the question, "Hey, who do you think I am?" and he says the Messiah, that is a very loaded statement. This is why even we see the feeding of the 5,000. Remember that story? At the end of that story, the disciples try to riot the crowd to crown Jesus as king, and Jesus like disregards them and leaves because they were going to forcibly take him and try to make him the king, because this was their idea. And this is why, like, when the feeding of the 5,000 was so important, is because they would have seen, oh, he can provide for a military. We don't even need crops. Like, he can do that. He can raise our soldiers from the dead. Like, and if he can give life, he can probably take life on massive scale. So they were ready.
God is for us. Who can be against us?
Yeah. And this is, and in this story, there's kind of the breakdown is, Jesus says, who am I? He replies with the Messiah. We can understand that that'd be his mindset. And then Jesus probably crushed their spirits because he's like, dope, yeah, I am the Messiah, and the Messiah will suffer, and the Messiah will die. And then, just kind of giving again an overview, Peter comes through and he's like, hey, Jesus, real quick, kind of lame of you to say, not really what you should be saying. It's not who you are. And then Jesus goes into this whole long thing about, I'm not about this world. Like, I'm not about the things you think I'm about. I'm actually about something greater, which you're going to talk about all on Sabbath. But what have you seen so far? Like, as you've looked, like, what stood out to you in these passages?
What stood out to me is, one, Jesus was asking them, I almost wonder if he was asking originally like in a very personal way. Because they're on this road, they're journeying, and they're going to Caesarea Philippi. And Annie and I have actually had the privilege of going there, and it's a beautiful, lush, green area. And, I just imagine him kind of walking on this road, and he's chewing on these questions, and he's asking, who do you say I am, to his disciples? And I almost wonder if he wanted to know, like, genuinely, like, Kyle, Ben, Peter, Jane, whoever was with John, whoever was with him, who am I? Like, to you, tell me. And I think what's standing out to me is, like, I would almost feel hurt if I was Jesus, that these guys that have been riding with me and know me and are following me, and like, we've been going, the context is they've been going city to city, preaching, healing, doing their thing. They've seen Jesus doing so much good work. And then he's like, you're the Messiah. And it's like, dude, yes, if you're talking about in the sense of like healing the wounds of the people and taking up, but where I think Jesus knew that that wasn't the motive was the way he responds in the text to Peter saying that, because he then goes on this whole thing about how, cool, that means I'm going to die. That means, the Son of Man will be rebuked and beaten. Yeah. And what stands out to me is, like, Peter, it says, rebukes Jesus for saying that. And I'm like
critiques him.
I'm like, who in the heck do you think you are? First of all. Yeah. Which, again, might show that he truly didn't really understand fully who Jesus was.
Yeah. I mean, there could have been a conception that he just was built in with. And I think,
like, Reza Aslan, he wrote a book called Zealot. Maybe you've heard. The whole premise of the book is that Jesus was a failed insurrectionist who simply got a lot of notoriety. Yeah. And so, Jesus was historical. We're cool with that. But it's funny because I was reading Reza's book, and it's like, you missed the whole point. Like, Jesus was always pushing against that. So, sorry.
Yeah, no, I think what you're saying is even more real if you read the first verse, where it says, the first thing he asked the disciples is, who do other people say I am? And they're like, the prophets, whatever. And they would have thought they were leveling up, being like, no, we don't think you're a prophet. We think you're the conquering Messiah.
Yeah. You're a warrior pillager. Yeah. Who's gonna take out all the Romans and their wives and kids and a warrior god.
Yeah, and I think it would have been like, maybe, I don't know if offensive, but just extremely disappointing and disheartening to Jesus. I was just talking to old DK, and he was saying that he's like, his company is like merging with another company, and they're all like non-Christian. They're kind of in the like for-profit camp sector. And that they were basically asking him, like, hey, what are you guys about? And they're like, we're like all Christian. Most of us are like previous Adventists, kind of Adventists, like figuring it out. And one of their responses was like, oh, so you're a Christian nationalist.
Yo.
And it's like, oh, like,
interesting.
My label to me means something so different than the label that you're like agreeing with, but you have so much baggage with it. And I wonder if Jesus's response to begin teaching them was out of like frustration a little bit, like, man, we're really not on it. You really don't get it. Let me help you.
We've missed the plot somewhere here.
And how frustrating would it be Like, I'm just thinking in my context. Somebody says, Ben, you're a Christian nationalist. And I'm like, no, man. Like, I'm about loving people. I'm about all of this. And they cut me off and they're like, dude, like, hey, stop trying to sugarcoat it. We know you're a Christian nationalist. We know you actually like hate other races, like all this kind of things. I would be like, bro, like, you can't tell me what I believe. Like, your stereotype of me is not
not accurate.
And I would be so frustrated.
Yeah, and I think this is where Jesus also knew like his time was short. So like to further prove his point, he then shares the teaching moment with them, and then he goes in on a bit of a diet after Peter like tries to correct him.
Mm-hmm.
I like that Jesus kind of goes savage mode because he's like, "Get behind me, Satan."
Yeah, what a crazy,
he's like,
what a crazy moment.
Like, stop playing, because I think what Jesus was trying to say there was like, this is demonic what you're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to twist who I am, my mission, what I'm doing, and turn it into something that it's not. So get behind me, enemy.
Yeah.
Get behind me, Satan. Like, he actually viewed, and I think this is a hard pill for maybe some to swallow, and I'm not saying this to like other anyone, but I think that Jesus would say this very same thing to many of his followers today, myself included at times. Like, why are you trying to thwart my gospel with your agenda?
Yeah.
Why are you trying to read something into it that isn't there?
Yeah.
And maybe, look, I don't blame Peter because there was insurrectionists that were popping up. We know people like Bar Joseph. We know of people like...
And the Old Testament's not super clear.
It's not. There's not really like a direct place where it's like he will be killed on a cross.
No, it says he'll suffer but never die or raise again. Like, it's...
So there's a lot of, Jesus pulls the Jonah story in, but then some say like that was him speaking figuratively. So you can kind of understand maybe like, okay, these guys needed an education, but still, I think the reality and maybe where this like hits home for me and where we can apply it today is like, I think Jesus is still asking each of us like, who am I to you? And I think when I look at the story, the way we can answer that is by what we value, because he kind of goes in the story later on, about not gaining this whole world and losing your soul. And I'm not going to lie. When I started writing my sermon, I was like, okay, I had a preconceived idea around this text. Cool. It's the one about denying yourself. I'll preach a great sermon on, not feeding yourself, but feeding your soul and helping Christ work it. But then I started reading it and just realizing that that is a faithful sermon to the text.
Sure.
But it's not a faithful sermon in sense of the full context and in our cultural moment. Yeah. I think Christians, and I know people could say we've been getting really political at Commons, but it's really like I don't think we're getting political. I think we're just genuinely trying to grapple with real life scenario. And people, I think I get on one hand wanting the church to be a respite and a relief from thinking about anything political or anything that is, like, I don't want to, people say, I don't want to hear about the news at church. I want to hear about Jesus and encouragement. I think there's a way for us, like Jesus here, to fully address like he was addressing to them that they had gotten it wrong with the Romans, but he wasn't using language that would have like essentially made it just a political conversation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. And I recognize that the most previous sermon I preached, like I named some specific political things, but there's a lot of times where people have been frustrated with me for preaching political sermons. And then I'll ask them like, what specifically did I say? And they'll say, well, you said we should love like even the people that like are completely against us. And I'm like, okay, so you took that and applied it to your politics. But just because the Bible applies to your politics doesn't mean that a sermon or an idea is political. Like even, I think, right, like I think a beauty that I see in this text, very along the lines of what you were saying, is that Jesus is trying to take them from thinking that the Messiah is all about personal gain and what can I get? How can I be uplifted? To being something that is completely opposite of like the Messiah is actually calling you to do less for yourself. The Messiah is calling you to empty yourself. Yeah. Like it's not about uplifting you, it's about uplifting the kingdom. And somebody could take that and be like, okay, well, that's political because you're saying that I shouldn't be using Jesus for my political party and my political gain. Is like, but I didn't say that. The Holy Spirit convicted your heart of something that is challenging to you, but that doesn't mean anything's wrong.
Some of y'all been revealing your own wrestling, and some
Yeah.
and
And that's cool.
I don't say that in like a spiteful way. We love y'all. If you, everyone, first of all, but also as a member, like don't ever feel weird to come to us with things. But some of the connections, like you're saying, people will make. It's like, whoa, okay, I don't know how you got to there. Let's talk about it. And I think what I really appreciate about you, and what I've been trying to model and learn from you as well, is like letting people have real conversations with, like, you've done this thing where like people, you'll see someone in the audience be a little frustrated and you'll go seek them out because you want to make sure, like, hey, I'm not trying to, and this is where I think I know your heart is always gospel centered, is like, I'm not trying to make people mad and making a statement that sounds altruistic.
Yeah.
I'm literally trying to help us understand the scriptures.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Jesus was doing here. It's like a great level set of, you've heard it been said, but I say unto you. And so as we kind of head into the rest of this week and the rest of this series, Ben, are there any like final words that we want to share with the people on this one, or a final call?
Yeah, I mean, I would say just something I would encourage you to do, because it's something I've been having to do and trying to figure out for myself. Something I've been wrestling with is looking at the Messiah clearly